my name is Peyton Leonhardt, and today I'm doing my speech over the importance of mental health awareness. Mental health is essential to how people function in their daily lives. It's a measure of how well someone holds relationships with other people, their ability to cope and adapt to challenges, as well as leading fulfilling and productive lives. It is important to recognize the signs and how to help yourself and others who are struggling with various mental diseases. Neuropsychiatric disorders are the leading cause of disease in the United States, almost going hand in hand with poor physical health. Our tech-savvy society also plays a huge role in our lives and have been linked to causing stress, depression, and anxiety in not only our youth, but adults as well. For the first part of my speech, I'm going to go over types of mental health disorders and what are the most common. Major depression, anxiety disorders, and bipolar disorders are among the most common types of mental health disorders in the United States. For people aged 15 to 44, major depressive disorders are among the leading cause of disability. Depression manifests itself in many ways, but the most common are loss in interest in things that once brought them pleasure, changes in weight and sleeping patterns, and feelings of worthlessness. Another common type of mental disorder is anxiety. This is a highly treatable disease, but it is estimated that only 37% of people actually pursue treatment. You can recognize the signs of anxiety by restlessness, fatigue, tense muscles, and panic attacks. Lastly, we have bipolar disorder, which affects both men and women equally, and studies have shown that the median age for developing bipolar disorder is around the age of 25. Manic episodes, which is defined by how drastic a person's mood changes from normal, is a common symptom of this disorder. It can be a lengthy process to diagnose it, which can include charting moods over a period of time, a psychiatric evaluation, and a physical exam. Mental health has long been a taboo subject, but we now as a society realize the importance of taking a gentle approach around the subject of mental health. Many Americans have suffered in silence in fear of judgment or misunderstanding and stereotypes from their family members and peers. It is estimated that nearly 10 million Americans are living with a serious mental health issue, with suicide being the 10th leading cause of death here in the United States. It has been a common misconception that illness is only valid if it is physical and visible. Many people do not realize that our brain is an organ that can be affected by disease, just like your heart and liver. Because it is hard for people to rationalize the disease without visual ailments, people tend to become ignorant to mental disease, mostly from a lack of understanding. There can also be many factors that play into why people develop mental disorders. Genes and family history are one factor that is looked at for people who suffer from mental disease, and studies have shown that all of the main psychiatric disorders have a heritable factor, meaning that you can inherit some of these diseases. It has been estimated that about 20 to 45% of mental diseases like anxiety disorders, PTSD, OCD, and major depressive disorders are inherited from a parent or a family member. Alcohol dependence and anorexia nervosa are 50 to 60% inherited. Bipolar disorder, autism spectrum disorders, schizophrenia, and ADHD have a higher heritable rate of 75%. Your life experiences such as stress or a history of abuse, whether that be substance or physical, especially if they happen in childhood, have also been linked to the development of mental disorders. Our social experiences can also play a huge factor on if we develop these mental illnesses, like financial stress, incarceration of yourself or a loved one, and employment have all been linked to mental disorders as well. Abuse like emotional, physical, verbal, and sexual can also have long-term effects on how we see and feel about ourselves. Women and men who experience this type of abuse are more likely to develop depression, anxiety, and PTSD. However, women are more likely to develop these mental issues because domestic violence is more commonly inflicted upon women. I also want to add that child abuse can have a lasting effect on someone's mental health. Sometimes these children will grow up to battle a lifetime of mental illness, and researchers have identified that children who were abused in some way have different adult brains than children who were not abused, and then they have done brain scans to prove that as well. So my last point I want to come to is that battling mental disease is not something that you or your loved one has to do alone. There are many counseling services available to the people who feel like they cannot rise above their mental health problems. There are different sites like betterhealth.com. They now have online therapy and apps where you can talk with mental health professionals. Determining which type of mental health professional is right for you is essential to recovery and coping with mental health disease. A few of these are, but not limited to, psychiatrists, child and adolescent psychiatrists, clinical social workers, and marital and family therapists. There are many types of counselings and therapists for whatever rough patch in your time that you're going through. And then reaching out to loved ones who you know are struggling with mental illness can absolutely be a matter of life and death. And many people struggling with their mental health feel as though they cannot come to someone as part of their disease is avoidance and not reaching out to others. So for you, trying grounding techniques and practicing being a strong support system for them is important for their recovery. And then easing into topics of getting help, especially if this person has a history of substance abuse, as to not place blame and shame upon this person. So finally, I would just like to say that destigmatizing mental health is so important if we start reducing the... Finally, I would like to say that destigmatizing mental health is so important so that we can start reducing the rates of suicides and number of people suffering from mental health disorders in silence. Most of the time, it takes one person to reach out to someone who may be suffering to make an impact in their life and make them feel that they are heard. Recognizing the signs and what to do about them are very essential to the steps of recovery and coping. I think that many people are starting to realize that mental health is really not a mind over matter issue, and then there have been many technological innovations to make sure mental health counseling is available to people of all walks of life. The last thing that I want to add is that seeking mental health counseling is also important if we want to stop cycles of abuse and moving forward as a mentally healthier society. Thank you.